Thomas and the pigs. There are lots and lots of farms on the Island of Sodor. There are farms with sheep. There are farms with cows. There are farms with goats. Thomas likes visiting all the farms, but his favourite farm of all was Farmer Trotter's pig farm. Thomas liked their curly tails and the funny noises they made. Thomas liked to visit Farmer Trotter's pig farm as often as he could. One day, Thomas was watching the pigs roll in the mud. Farmer Trotter was happy to see Thomas.
Hello, Farmer Trotter.
Hello, Thomas. I have some very special news. One of my pigs is going to have piglets today.
Thomas was excited.
I can't wait to see them.
I need some soft straw for the piglets. I'd like you to go to Farmer McCall's right now to collect it. He'll be waiting for you.
Thomas was happy to help.
Yes, Farmer Trotter.
So Thomas chuffed cheerfully away with his empty flatbed. On his way to Farmer McCall's, Thomas thought about the pigs.
I'm sure the piglets will like the soft straw. I wonder if there's anything else they'd like.
Thomas puffed up to the dairy. He saw Percy. Thomas told Percy all about the piglets.
How exciting! I wish I could see them, but I have to deliver this milk.
Thomas looked at the milk churns. An idea flew into his funnel.
I'm sure the piglets would like some milk. May I have some?
Of course you can, Thomas.
So the milk churns were loaded onto Thomas's flatbed.
Thank you, Percy. I must go. Farmer McCall is waiting for me.
And he steamed away. Thomas felt pleased.
I wonder what else the piglets might like.
Then Thomas saw James. James was at an orchard. The trees were full of juicy red apples.
Hello, James.
Hello, Thomas.
Thomas told James all about the piglets.
The piglets will soon be born. I must collect some soft straw for them.
I wish I could see the piglets, but I have to deliver these boxes of apples to the village.
Thomas looked at the juicy red apples.
I'm sure the piglets would like some juicy red apples. May I have some?
Of course you can.
So Thomas's flatbed was loaded with lots and lots of juicy red apples.
Thank you, James. I must go. Farmer McCall is waiting for me.
Thomas chuffed quickly away. He felt very pleased.
I wonder what else the piglets might like.
Then Thomas saw some children. They were collecting shiny brown chestnuts.
Hello.
Thomas told the children all about the piglets. They were very excited.
I'm sure the piglets would like some shiny brown chestnuts to eat. Please, may I have some for them?
The children were delighted to give Thomas some of their shiny brown chestnuts.
Thank you. I must go. Farmer McCall is waiting for me.
And Thomas puffed away. He felt even more pleased. At last, Thomas chuffed to Farmer McCall's farm. Farmer McCall was waiting. He was cross.
Thomas, you're late. Where have you been?
I'm sorry, Farmer McCall. I stopped to collect some milk, some juicy red apples and some shiny brown chestnuts for the piglets.
Farmer McCall looked at Thomas's flatbed. He saw the milk, the juicy red apples and shiny brown chestnuts.
Your flatbed is full. You have no room for straw now.
Fizzling fireboxes. I didn't think about that. I hope the piglets will like the milk, the apples and the chestnuts just as much as straw. I must puff straight back to Farmer Trotter's. The piglets will be born soon.
So Thomas pumped his pistons and chuffed quickly away. Thomas pulled up at the farm. Farmer Trotter was waiting. He looked at Thomas's full flatbed. He was surprised.
Thomas, where's the soft straw?
I thought the piglets would like these things just as much as straw.
No, Thomas. Piglets need soft straw, and they're about to be born.
Thomas felt very silly.
I'm sorry. I'll empty my flatbed, then I'll puff back to Farmer McColl's as fast as I can. I must get the straw. There can be no delay. The piglets will need it by the end of the day.
Thomas saw Percy at the water tower.
Thomas, I know something else the piglets would like.
I'm sorry, Percy. I can't stop.
Bye, Thomas.
I must get the straw. There can be no delay. I've no time for chatter along the way.
Next, Thomas saw James at a junction.
Hello, Thomas. I've been thinking about the piglets. I'm sure they'd like...
I'm sorry, James. I can't stop. I must get the straw. There can be no delay. I've no time for chatter along the way.
Thomas whooshed and he wheeshed, he huffed and he puffed until he arrived at Farmer McColl's farm. It was late.
Hello, Farmer McColl. Now I have plenty of room for the soft straw for the piglets. Could you load it right now?
Of course I can, Thomas.
Thank you, Farmer McColl. I must hurry.
Thomas's pistons pumped and his axles ached.
I must puff fast. There's no time for delay. The piglets need straw by the end of the day.
At last, Thomas arrived at Farmer Trotter's pig farm. It was now nearly night time. Thomas saw that the pigs had gone.
Cinders and ashes. I'm too late.
You're just in time, Thomas. I need that soft straw right away.
Farmer Trotter unloaded the straw from Thomas's flatbed, and he took it away to make a nice soft bed for the piglets.
The piglets have just been born.
Thomas was delighted.
Bubbling boilers. Look how small they are and how sweet.
Thomas could see the piglets really liked the soft straw.
Oh, that little piglet is looking at me.
I think I'll call him Thomas.
Thomas was so happy his axles tingled and his boiler bubbled. Percy's Parcel. It was a beautiful day on the Island of Sodor. The sun was shining in a bright blue sky, and all the engines were very excited. There was to be a special party. It was Dowager Hatt's birthday. The Fat Controller arrived at Tidmouth Sheds. He had a special for Thomas.
Thomas, you are to collect passengers for the party from Brendam Docks.
Thomas was excited.
Yes, sir.
Percy hoped that the Fat Controller had a special for him. But he didn't.
Don't worry, Percy. I'm sure you'll have a special later.
But Percy still felt sad. Mavis rolled by and stopped. She could see Percy was unhappy.
What's wrong, Percy?
I don't have a special. Everybody else does.
Don't worry, Percy. I'm sure the Fat Controller will come back with a special just for you. And when he does, be sure to tell me all about it.
Just then, the Fat Controller did come back. Percy was surprised.
Percy, you have the most important special of all. You must collect my mother's special birthday parcel from Brendon Docks. Then you must deliver it to the birthday party at Knapford Station.
Percy beamed from buffer to buffer.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Percy was excited. Mavis had been right. Percy puffed into Brendam Docks. He gasped. The parcel was the most special parcel he had ever seen. Percy was so proud his firebox fizzed.
I must show Mavis straight away. She'll be very proud of me.
Thomas was at Brendam. He was pleased for his friend.
Percy, you have the most important special of all.
I know. I'm going to show Mavis my special straight away.
But don't you have to go to Knapford Station?
Percy didn't want to listen to Thomas.
I have plenty of time to puff to Knapford. First, I will show Mavis my special.
So Percy set off for the quarry as quickly as he could puff. Percy steamed into the quarry. He looked for Mavis. Mavis was busy. Rocky was loading heavy crates onto trucks, and Mavis was shunting them. It was hard work.
Hello, Mavis.
Hello, Percy.
Look at my special.
I'm sorry, Percy. I can't stop now. I'm too busy.
Don't worry, Mavis. I'll wait.
Look out, Percy!
But it was too late. Rocky dropped his heavy load of slate. Everyone was lost in a thick black cloud of slate dust. At last, the dust cleared. Mavis, Rocky and Percy were covered in thick grey dust. And so was Percy's special. Percy was upset.
Bubbling boilers. Look at the birthday parcel. What am I going to do?
Percy thought as hard as he could. At last, an idea flew into his funnel.
I'll go to the washdown. My special will be cleaned there as good as new.
Percy, shouldn't you go straight to the party at Knapford?
Percy didn't want to listen to Rocky.
I'll go to Knapford Station as soon as I've shown Mavis my special. I still have plenty of time.
So Percy steamed quickly away. Percy huffed and puffed to the washdown. James was already there having a polish.
My, Percy, whatever happened to you?
Percy felt very silly.
I'd like a very good wash, please.
The workmen got straight to work. Water and soapy bubbles sprayed everywhere. Soon Percy was gleaming green again. But his special looked terrible.
Bubbling boilers! The birthday parcel is wetter than wet. What am I going to do?
Percy thought as quickly as he could. At last, another idea flew into his funnel.
I'll take my special to the Sodor Steamworks. Victor will help me. His hot air blowers will dry the birthday parcel.
Percy, shouldn't you go straight to the party at Knapford?
Percy didn't want to listen to James.
I'll go to Knapford Station as soon as I've shown Mavis my special. I'm sure I still have plenty of time.
And Percy chuffed quickly away. Percy raced like the wind to the steamworks. Percy looked for Victor at the steamworks. He couldn't find him anywhere. But he did find a workman.
I'd like to be dried as quickly as you can, please.
The workman was happy to help. Hot air whooshed and whirred all over Percy and all over his special. Soon the workman had finished. Percy felt very pleased until he saw the birthday parcel.
Wobbling wheels! It's all crinkled and crumpled. What am I going to do?
Percy thought as hard as he could, but this time no ideas flew into his funnel at all. So Percy steamed sadly away. Percy clickety-clacked slowly along the track. Now he didn't want to show Mavis his special. He had spoiled Dowager Hatt's birthday parcel. He couldn't go to the party at Knapford now. Percy didn't want anyone to see him, so he chuffed into a siding to hide. He felt terrible. Then he heard Mavis and Edward chuff to the junction.
Hello, Mavis. You look happy.
I am. I've just picked up these brand new crates.
Suddenly, Percy stopped feeling sad and he started to listen very carefully.
Brand new crates?
Victor had just delivered them to the steamworks. I've never pulled brand new crates before. Goodbye, Edward.
A brand new crate is just what I need.
Percy pumped his pistons and puffed away to the steamworks.
Hello, Victor.
Hello, my friend. How can I help you?
I've just seen Mavis with brand new crates. May I have one, please?
Well, what for?
To put my birthday parcel in.
Well, of course you can, Percy.
That made Percy very happy.
Thank you, Victor.
Soon, a new bright red crate was sitting on Percy's flatbed.
This will be the grandest parcel the Fat Controller's mother has ever been given. I must hurry now. Everyone will be waiting. Thank you, Victor.
And Percy puffed proudly out of the steamworks. The Fat Controller and Dowager Hatt were waiting at Knapford Station. The Fat Controller was cross. Then Percy puffed in. The brand new bright red birthday parcel looked wonderful. Everyone cheered.
Happy birthday, Mom. Here's your very special birthday present.
Dowager Hatt beamed, and even the Fat Controller smiled. As the workmen opened the crate, everyone wanted to see what the present was. Dowager Hatt was most excited of all. Then everyone gasped. It was a beautiful portrait of Dowager Hatt.
Oh, my Bertram! What a wonderful surprise! I'm very happy.
That's the most special I've ever seen, Percy.
Percy smiled from footplate to fender. He was sure he was the happiest engine of all. Creaky Cranky. It was the spring holiday on Sodor. There was to be a party for the children at the Duke and Duchess's new summer house. All the engines were very excited and very busy. Thomas chuffed cheerfully into the docks. James and Henry were passing through.
Good morning, James. Good morning, Henry. Where are you puffing to?
I'm taking these straw bales to the summer house for the children to climb on.
I'm taking wood to make a stage for the children's show and barrels of lemonade to drink.
How wonderful. I'll see you later at the summer house. Good morning, Cranky.
What's good about it?
It's the Duke and Duchess's party day.
Party smarty. I don't go to parties. I'm stuck here loading and unloading all day. I haven't had a moment to rest my hook.
That load is for me. It's eggs for the children to paint. Hurry up, Cranky. You're Creaky Cranky. What's the matter? Are the eggs too heavy a load for you?
Cranky didn't like Thomas's joke. He didn't like being called Creaky.
No, they're not too heavy for me. They're light as fluff. You're not strong enough to pull anything heavier than fluff, Tiny Thomas. That's why Henry and James have the heavy loads.
Now Thomas didn't like Cranky's joke.
Fizzling fireboxes. I'm as strong as any other engine.
You're not as strong as me. I can lift much heavier loads than you could ever pull.
Thomas really didn't like that.
We'll see, Cranky. I have lots of time to deliver the eggs. First, I have to prove Cranky wrong. James has a heavy load. I'll go and find James.
So Thomas steamed sternly out of the docks. Thomas found James at the junction by the washdown.
Hello, James. I don't have a lot of jobs today. Shall I deliver your heavy load of wood and barrels for you? You can stay here at the washdown. Then you'll be perfectly polished for the party.
James thought this was a very good idea.
Thank you, Thomas.
So James was uncoupled from the heavy flatbed of wood, and Thomas was coupled up. The flatbed was heavy. Huffing and puffing, Thomas set off for the docks. Thomas chuffed back into the docks.
You again? What are you doing with that wood?
This flatbed is very heavy. I'm sure you can't lift it.
Cranky looked at the flatbed of wooden barrels.
I'm sure I can.
Cranky's hook swung low over the wood. Thomas watched and waited. With a creak and a crank and a crank and a creak, Cranky raised the flatbed into the air. Thomas's boiler buzzed.
Told you so.
You're still Creaky Cranky.
And you're still Tiny Thomas.
That made Thomas very cross.
I will prove Cranky wrong and still have time to deliver the eggs. I'm sure Henry had an even heavier load. I'll go and find Henry.
So Thomas steamed stormily away. Thomas found Henry waiting by the coal hopper for his special coal.
Hello, Henry. I don't have a lot of jobs today. Shall I deliver your heavy load of straw bales for you? Then you can wait here for your special coal.
Henry thought this was a very good idea.
Thank you, Thomas.
So Henry was uncoupled from the heavy flatbed of straw bales, and Thomas was coupled up. The flatbed was very heavy. Huffing and puffing, Thomas set off once more for the docks. Soon, Thomas puffed back into the docks.
You again? Now what are you doing with those straw bales?
This flatbed is very, very heavy. I'm sure you can't lift this.
Cranky looked at the flatbed of straw bales.
I'm sure I can.
Cranky's hook swung low over the straw. Thomas watched and waited. With a creak and a crank and a crank and a creak, Cranky raised a flatbed of straw into the air. Thomas's funnel fizzed.
Told you so.
You're still Creaky Cranky.
And you're still Tiny Thomas.
That made Thomas even crosser. More than ever, Thomas wanted to prove Creaky Cranky wrong. He had to find the heaviest thing he could. Then an idea flew into his funnel.
Lift me, Cranky.
Cranky looked at Thomas. He couldn't let Thomas win. Cranky's hook swung low over Thomas. Thomas hardly dared puff. With a creak and a crank and a crank and a creak, and very, very slowly, Cranky raised Thomas high into the air.
Bubbling boilers! Creaky Cranky is lifting me.
Then there was trouble. Cranky creaked louder than ever. His crane arm stuttered and judded. It creaked and it croaked. Then it cracked.
Oh, no.
Cranky's crane arm had broken, and it was all Thomas's fault. Thomas was stuck high in the sky and blowing in the breeze. Then the Fat Controller arrived.
Thomas, what are you doing up there?
I'm sorry, sir.
You are causing confusion and delay. The Duke and Duchess have no wood, straw bales or eggs. Now I see you have them all here. Cranky is broken, and you, Thomas, think it's a good time to try being a bird. The Duke and Duchess are waiting.
Thomas felt very silly. Then the Fat Controller looked at Cranky.
And you're as silly as Thomas.
Cranky crumpled.
The shame to be as silly as a steamy.
Soon a workman had climbed up Cranky. Slowly and carefully, Thomas was lowered and landed with a jolt and a judder. Just as Spencer arrived.
Dear, oh dear, Thomas, what a mess. Little engines can get into very big trouble.
Thomas felt even sillier in front of Spencer, but he knew now that being strong was only good if you were also really useful, and he had to be really useful.
Spencer, I need your help. You are very strong and can pull much heavier loads than me. Will you take the wood, the straw bales and the eggs to the summer house for me, please? It's my fault that Cranky is broken. I must put everything right as quickly as I can.
Very well.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Cranky. I know you're strong, stronger than me. I'll be back soon with the right parts to fix you.
Then Thomas pumped his pistons and puffed out of the docks. Thomas wheeshed like the wind, all the way to the steamworks.
Hello, Victor. Cranky creaked and now he's cracked. He needs new parts.
You've come to the right place, my friend. Parts are plenty here. We'll have Cranky up and lifting in no time.
Soon Thomas's flatbed was loaded with new parts for Cranky.
Thank you, Victor.
Of course, my friend. Give Cranky my best.
And Thomas huffed happily away. Thomas puffed into the docks with his heavy flatbed. Cranky was still looking crumpled.
Here you are, Cranky. We'll have you fixed in no time.
Thank you, Thomas. That's a heavy flatbed. You know, you're not tiny.
And you're not creaky.
Cranky laughed, and that made Thomas laugh too. Double trouble. All the engines were very excited. They chuffed cheerfully and chattered as they clattered along the tracks. Today was the Fat Controller's birthday, and there was to be the grandest birthday party on Sodor. Thomas had a very special. He was to pick up the Fat Controller and Lady Hatt for the party. As Thomas approached Maithwaite Station, he gasped. Ahead, he could see the Fat Controller already on the platform.
Cinders and ashes, I must be late.
Thomas pulled into the station. He was worried.
I'm sorry, sir. I thought I was early.
The Fat Controller turned around. Thomas gasped. The Fat Controller had a moustache. Thomas was so surprised he nearly popped a piston.
Thomas, my good friend, you're looking perfectly polished today.
Thank you, sir.
The Fat Controller chuckled so loudly his top hat wobbled. Thomas was puzzled. The Fat Controller never chuckled so loudly that his top hat wobbled, and the Fat Controller never called Thomas his good friend.
I know, Thomas. Let's go to the Whispering Woods. It's one of my favourite spots. We have plenty of time before the party. All aboard!
Now Thomas was even more puzzled. He wanted to ask about the Fat Controller's new moustache and why he was acting so strangely. But Thomas didn't want to look silly, so he decided not to ask. Thomas pulled away from Maithwaite Station and chuffed towards the Whispering Woods. Thomas puffed up to the Whispering Woods. Edward was there. Edward had brought children to visit the woods. Then he was to take them to the party.
Hello, Edward.
Hello, Thomas. You look worried.
Thomas was worried, but before he could explain, the Fat Controller climbed down.
Marvellous! What fun!
Please, sir. We can't stay long. The children mustn't be late for the party.
Oh, party smarty, Thomas. We have plenty of time. You worry too much.
And the Fat Controller strode off.
Hello, children. Who'd like a game of hide and seek?
Did the Fat Controller say a game of hide and seek?
Yes, he did.
And Thomas's wheels wobbled with worry. The Fat Controller played hide and seek for a long time. He was very happy. So were the children. Edward was puzzled.
The Fat Controller never plays hide and seek.
I know.
And what's that on his face?
A moustache. It just appeared. Today, the Fat Controller doesn't seem like the Fat Controller at all.
Just then, the Fat Controller came back. Thomas wanted to ask him if he was feeling all right, but he didn't want to look silly. Thomas knew that silly engines weren't really useful engines, so he didn't ask any questions.
We must hurry now, sir. We'll be late.
And so will the children.
But the Fat Controller wasn't worried.
Don't hurry the children, Edward. Let them play.
Edward was so surprised his boiler bubbled. Then the Fat Controller jumped aboard Annie and waved to all the children. Thomas's wheels clickety-clacked. He puffed and he huffed along the track. He knew they were late for the party. Thomas stopped at the junction. Suddenly, the Fat Controller jumped out of Annie and climbed up to the signal box.
I won't be a moment, Thomas.
Thomas was amazed. So was the signalman. The Fat Controller never came into his signal box.
Hello there. May I have a turn?
Thomas looked up. He saw the Fat Controller pull a lever. Then Thomas heard Gordon's whistle.
Cinders and ashes! Here comes Gordon!
Gordon had all the important visitors aboard the express. He was taking them to the party. With a clang and a clatter, the points changed. Gordon and the express were no longer on the express track. They were now on a branch line heading away from the party. Thomas heard the Fat Controller whoop for joy.
Hurrah!
Fizzling fireboxes! I must ask the Fat Controller why he's being so strange.
But when the Fat Controller came down from the signal box, Thomas didn't say anything. He still didn't want to look silly.
What fun! All aboard, Thomas!
Thomas raced towards Maithwaite. Lady Hatt would be waiting. They were very late. Thomas was worried.
First, the Fat Controller had a moustache. Next, he wanted to play hide-and-seek with the children. Then he sent Gordon off the express line and away from the party. The Fat Controller is acting very strangely indeed.
Thomas puffed into Maithwaite. The station master was cross.
Thomas, you are late. The Fat Controller and Lady Hatt had to go to the party in Bertie the bus. But Bertie hasn't arrived at the party. Neither have the children or the very important visitors.
Thomas was puzzled.
If the Fat Controller is on Bertie, then who is on board Annie?
Just then, Thomas's passenger stepped down. Thomas knew he had to ask the question he hadn't asked before, even if he looked silly.
Excuse me, Fat Controller. You don't quite seem yourself today. Is everything all right?
Thomas's passenger beamed brightly.
Yes, Thomas, but I'm not the Fat Controller. I'm Staloam Hatt. I'm his brother.
Thomas was amazed. That explained everything. But he wished now he had asked his question earlier. Now there was no time to waste if he wanted to be a really useful engine.
Bertie must have broken down. We must find him right away.
The Fat Controller's brother was very excited.
Hurrah! Another game of hide-and-seek.
Now Thomas was stern.
No, Staloam Hatt. I have to work hard and quickly. Otherwise your brother's party will be spoiled.
Staloam boarded Annie and Thomas puffed away. Thomas found Bertie the bus. Smoke billowed from his engine. Bertie looked very unhappy. So did the Fat Controller and Lady Hatt.
Thomas, where have you been?
Just then, the Fat Controller's brother stepped down from Annie. The Fat Controller sighed.
Oh no, Loam. Have you been up to your old tricks again? Absolutely right, Topham. I've been having a wonderful time with Thomas.
The Fat Controller didn't think this was funny at all.
Loam, you have caused confusion and delay. We must hurry.
Thomas delivered the Fat Controller, his brother and Lady Hatt to the party, just in time. The party looked grand, but Thomas couldn't stay. He had work to do. First, Thomas chuffed to the Whispering Woods. Edward was very happy to see Thomas.
Go straight to the party with the children, Edward. The Fat Controller is waiting. It was his brother, Staloam, who was playing hide-and-seek.
Next, Thomas found Gordon. Gordon was huffing and puffing as slowly as a snail down a rickety branch line.
Oh, the indignity.
Hurry, Gordon, to the next express line. Race like a rocket to the party.
That made Gordon very happy. At last, Thomas chuffed back to the party. Edward and Gordon were already there.
What a wonderful party!
And it was. Everyone was laughing. Then Thomas and his friends heard something very extraordinary. The Fat Controller chuckled even louder than his brother, and that made Thomas happiest of all. The Lion of Sodor. It was a beautiful day on the Island of Sodor. The sky was blue and the sun was shining brightly. Thomas was chuffing cheerfully to Brendam Docks. He felt very happy. Thomas had to collect the special, but he didn't know what it was.
Hello, Cranky. Is my special ready?
Yes, it is. The mayor is waiting for it at Knapford. You must puff very carefully.
Thomas was puzzled.
What is it, Cranky?
It's the Lion of Sodor.
Cinders and ashes, how exciting! I promised to take extra special care of it. I've never carried a real live lion before.
When Cranky heard this, he was surprised.
No, Thomas, the Lion of Sodor isn't a...
But Thomas was too excited to listen to Cranky. He was already puffing proudly out of the docks. Thomas huffed happily along. Then he met Henry.
Hello, Thomas. You look happy. What's your special?
It's a lion.
Bust my buffers. That's exciting. I only have sticky syrup to deliver.
Suddenly, an idea flew into Thomas's funnel.
I promised to take extra special care of my lion. I think he might really like sticky syrup. Could I have some for him, Henry?
Of course.
Thomas's driver poured some sticky syrup into the lion's crate.
Thank you, Henry. I have to hurry now. The mayor is waiting for the Lion of Sodor.
Henry was surprised.
Fizzling fireboxes. Thomas has made a mistake. Oh, stop, Thomas. The Lion of Sodor isn't a...
But Thomas didn't stop, and he didn't listen. Next, Thomas met Edward.
Hello, Thomas. You look happy. What's your special?
It's a lion.
Flat my funnel. How exciting. I only have to deliver fresh fish.
I think my lion would really like fresh fish. May I have some for him, Edward?
Of course.
So Thomas's driver put some fresh fish into the lion's crate.
Thank you, Edward. I must hurry now. The mayor is waiting for the Lion of Sodor.
Edward was surprised.
Clattering carriages. Stop, Thomas. The Lion of Sodor isn't a...
But Thomas didn't stop, and he didn't listen. Then Thomas saw Toby.
Hello, Thomas. You look happy. What's your special?
It's a lion.
Buff my boiler. How exciting. I only have straw in my trucks.
I'm sure my lion would really like some soft straw to lie on. May I have some for him, Toby?
Of course.
Thomas's driver put some soft straw into the lion's crate.
Thank you, Toby. I really have to hurry. The mayor will be waiting for the Lion of Sodor.
Toby was surprised.
Oh no, trembling trucks. Stop, Thomas. The Lion of Sodor isn't a...
But Thomas didn't stop, and he didn't listen. Thomas's pistons pumped and his wheels whirred. He couldn't wait to deliver his lion. He chuffed his hardest and raced on towards Knapford Station. At last, Thomas puffed proudly into Knapford. The Fat Controller was there, and so were the other engines.
I'm very excited, Thomas. This is a big day. The Lion of Sodor is here.
Thomas was uncoupled from the flatbed, and he pulled away to join the other engines. The workman carefully opened the lion's crate. Then the engines gasped. The Lion of Sodor wasn't a real lion at all. It was a statue. And now it was covered in sticky syrup, fresh fish and straw. The Fat Controller was cross.
Thomas, this is a terrible mess.
Gordon and James laughed. Thomas felt very silly.
I'm sorry. I thought I had a real lion in my crate. I wanted to take extra special care of it. I didn't know the Lion of Sodor was a statue.
So the Fat Controller told Thomas all about the Lion of Sodor, and the other engines listened carefully.
So you see, Thomas, it was the most famous statue on Sodor. Then it broke. This is the shiny new statue we have been waiting for. The mayor is coming at tea time. And now look at it.
I'll make sure it's clean, sir. I promise. The Lion of Sodor will be shiny and new again in no time.
Very well, Thomas.
Thomas still felt very silly.
Cheer up, Thomas. I didn't know the Lion of Sodor was a statue either.
It all happened a long, long time ago. Not many engines remember that time. We tried to tell you, but you didn't stop.
I'm sorry, Henry. I should have listened. Now I must hurry. I must get the Lion of Sodor cleaned right away.
Why don't you take it to the washdown?
This time, Thomas listened.
What a good idea. Thank you, Henry.
Thomas was coupled to the flatbed, and he chuffed quickly away. Thomas took the Lion of Sodor to the washdown. Soon, the sticky mess was washed off.
That looks much better, Thomas.
But the statue isn't shiny.
Take it to the steamworks, Thomas. They'll polish it until it sparkles and shines.
This time, Thomas listened.
Thank you, Edward. That's a very good idea. Victor will know just what to do.
And Thomas puffed quickly away. Thomas took the Lion of Sodor to the steamworks. Workmen polished the statue until it shone and sparkled, just as Edward had said.
The Lion of Sodor looks much better now, Thomas.
But it's nearly tea time. The mail will soon be at Knapford, and it's a long way.
Take the track by the windmill. That'll get you there in time.
This time, Thomas listened.
Thank you, Toby. That's a good idea.
So Thomas took the shortcut past the windmill. He huffed and puffed as fast as his pistons could pump towards Knapford. Children cheered and passengers waved as Thomas chuffed by. Everyone wanted to see the Lion of Sodor, and everyone wanted Thomas to stop.
I can't stop now. I mustn't be late. The mail will be at Knapford and he won't wait.
And Thomas whooshed on his way. Thomas puffed proudly into Knapford Station. The mayor had just arrived. He was delighted to see the new Lion of Sodor. The statue shone and sparkled in the sun.
Well done, Thomas. This is the finest statue I've ever seen.
And the cleanest.
Everyone cheered, and Thomas smiled from footplate to fender. Time for a story. It was a beautiful day on the Island of Sodor. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. Thomas had worked hard all morning. He tooted happily to the children as he chuffed back to Tidmouth Sheds. The Fat Controller was waiting. He had an important special.
This afternoon, there is to be a special story time for the children at the library. I need an engine to collect the new storybooks from Maythwaite Station and take them to the library.
Thomas wished his hardest that he would be given the special. Listening to stories with the children was his favourite thing to do.
Thomas, you will deliver the special. Make sure the books are at the library on time.
Thomas was excited,
Yes, sir.
and Thomas chuffed cheerfully away. Thomas puffed fast along the tracks.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
Thomas steamed into Maithwaite Station.
Hello, Thomas.
I'm here to collect the new storybooks.
We'll have your trucks ready in 2 toots of a whistle, Thomas.
Thomas saw the storybooks piled high in the 2 trucks. There were red books, green books, and blue books. There were big books, small books, square books, and even round books.
They look wonderful.
Soon Thomas was coupled up to the trucks.
I must hurry. I have to deliver the storybooks to the library on time.
Thomas was very excited. He pumped his pistons and puffed quickly out of the station. Thomas didn't wait for the books to be covered. Thomas steamed quickly along the track.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
The books began to jiggle and joggle, but Thomas didn't notice. Thomas puffed fast towards the junction. He could see the signal ahead was red.
I don't want to stop. The children are waiting for their special story time.
Then an idea flew into his funnel.
I can take the branch line. I know there aren't any junctions on that.
So Thomas puffed quickly down the branch line. Thomas felt very pleased. He chuffed faster and faster, and the books jiggled and joggled more and more. But Thomas didn't notice.
I mustn't be late for story time. I'll chuff and I'll puff to be there on time.
Thomas raced round a bend. Ahead, there was a sign for works on the track.
Oh, bother. I'm sure the works on the tracks won't stop me.
So Thomas puffed faster and faster. Then there was trouble. Workers were mending the broken track. The broken track was very bumpy. Thomas bumped and jumped. The books jiggled and joggled. Then Thomas hit the biggest bump of all.
Whoa! Cinders and ashes!
The trucks bounced high in the air. They crashed and bashed. They clattered and shattered down to the tracks. Thomas put on his brakes. The books flew high and wide through the air and landed all over Farmer McCall's field.
Oh my! The trucks are broken. The storybooks are all over the field. And the children now won't have their special story time. And it's all my fault. I was in such a hurry to be on time. I didn't want to wait. I should have waited for the books to be covered. And I shouldn't have taken the bumpy branch line. Oh dear. Fizzling fireboxes. What am I going to do?
Thomas looked at the storybooks. The sun was shining on them. The books looked even redder and greener and bluer than they had in the trucks.
The storybooks look so pretty in this field. I wish the children could see them.
Then an idea flew into his funnel.
I'll bring the children to the storybooks. They can have a picnic story time in the sunshine. That really will be special.
So Thomas puffed off to collect the children.
First, I must collect Annie and Clarabelle.
Victor and Kevin were busy at work as Thomas chuffed into the Sodor steamworks.
Hello, Victor. I'm here to collect Annie and Clarabelle. I'm going to take the children to a special picnic story time in the sunshine.
That's a wonderful idea, my friend.
The children will like that. They always have their best time with you, Thomas.
Thomas was pleased Victor and Kevin liked his idea. Later, Thomas huffed happily out of the steamworks with Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas puffed proudly up to the library at the town hall. The children were waiting. They were very surprised to see Annie and Clarabelle instead of trucks of storybooks.
Today, I am taking you to an extra special story time. It's a picnic story time in the sunshine. All aboard!
The children had never had a picnic story time. They thought it was a wonderful idea. Thomas blew his whistle and chuffed cheerfully away. Thomas puffed towards the junction. This time, Thomas waited. Then he took the branch line back to Farmer McColl's field. Thomas chuffed slowly and carefully up to Farmer McColl's field.
Here we are, the picnic story time special.
The children cheered. They could see all the different coloured books in the field. They were very excited. This was the best story time ever. Thomas watched as the children ran onto the field. They each picked up a book and their teacher began to read with them.
This is a story, children, all about a little boy. A little boy who didn't like waiting. He didn't like waiting because he thought he'd miss out on all the good things. But then he found out that good things are worth waiting for.
As the story began, Thomas looked at all the happy children. He smiled his biggest smile.
The children's picnic story time really is worth waiting for.
Splish, splash, splosh. It had been raining and pouring on the Island of Sodor. The engines were splattered and sploshed with mud. Thomas liked the rain. It splish-splashed on his boiler and pitter-pattered on his paintwork. Thomas and Rosie had biffed and bashed all day at the shunting yards. Now it was time to go.
Come on, Rosie. I'll race you to Tidmouth sheds.
The two friends puffed along the tracks, straight through a very big puddle.
Whee!
Thomas and Rosie were splashed from footplate to fender in muddy rainwater.
That was fun.
Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Thomas reversed slowly. Then he pumped his pistons.
Here I come, Rosie. Splish, splash, splosh.
That's a good game. Here I come, Thomas. Splish, splash, splash.
Muddy water splattered everywhere. Then the Fat Controller arrived. He had some important news.
Alicia Botti is to sing at a concert in the town hall. The concert will be followed by a grand tea.
That's exciting.
What fun!
Thomas, you must go straight to the washdown. Then you are to collect Miss Botti and myself from Dryall Station. We will be waiting for you.
Yes, sir.
Rosie, you must collect Annie and Clarabelle and take them to Dryall for Thomas.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
See you later, Rosie.
And Thomas and Rosie chuffed quickly away. Thomas pulled up at the junction to the washdown. he saw a very big puddle on the other track. Charlie was waiting right by it. He was very muddy.
Splashing Rosie was such good fun. I'm sure Charlie would like my game too. And I'm sure I have time for another puddle before the washdown.
So Thomas didn't take the track to the washdown. He took the track through the middle of the very big puddle.
Here I come, Charlie! Splish, splash, splash!
Bust my buffers! That's a good game!
Thomas huffed happily on.
Hooray! This is fun!
Now Thomas wanted to find more puddles. He couldn't wait to play his game with the other engines. At the next junction, Thomas waited to chuff left to the washdown. Then he saw a very big puddle on the right track. Emily was waiting.
Emily's muddy already. I'm sure she'd like my game. And I'm sure I have time for another puddle before the washdown. Here I come, Emily! Splish, splash, splash!
Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over Emily and all over Emily's flower trucks.
Fizzling fireboxes! I have to take this flour to the bakery to make the cakes for Alicia Botty's tea. Now Thomas has ruined it.
Thomas didn't know he had splashed Emily's flower trucks.
This is fun! Splish, splash, splosh! I'll soon need a wash!
And Thomas chuffed on, chuckling. At the next junction, Thomas waited to chuff to the washdown. Then he saw a very big puddle right beside James.
James is muddy already. I'm sure he'd like my game. And I'm sure I have time for just one more puddle before the washdown. Here I come, James! Splish, splash, splash!
And Thomas steamed away laughing. Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over James and all over the ripe strawberries on his flatbed.
Blistering boilers! These strawberries were for Alicia Botty's cakes. Now they're ruined.
Thomas didn't know he had splashed James's strawberries.
This is fun! Splish, splash, splosh! I'll soon need a wash!
And Thomas puffed on, happily. Thomas chuffed up to the next junction. Now it was getting late.
I know there'll be a very big puddle along the track by the river. I'm sure I have time for one last puddle before the washdown.
So Thomas took the left track that went along the river. Ahead of him, there was a very big puddle.
My! This is the biggest puddle ever! Here I come! Splish, splash, splash!
Then there was trouble. Muddy water flew high into the air and splooshed down all over Alicia Botty and the Fat Controller.
Thomas!
Thomas screeched to a stop and reversed slowly. He saw that he had splish, splash, splashed Alicia Botty and the Fat Controller.
Cinders and ashes!
Look what you've done to Miss Botty. She's soaked. Also, Thomas, I hear from the dairy manager that you ruined the flour and strawberries for Miss Botty's grand tea. This is a disaster.
Thomas felt terrible. He tried to puff forward, but he couldn't.
Oh, no.
The big puddle had put out his firebox.
This game isn't fun anymore. It's all gone wrong.
Then Thomas heard Rosie's whistle.
Rosie, please help me. I've splish, splash, splashed into trouble.
Oh dear, Thomas. Of course I will. Don't worry.
Rosie heaved and huffed Thomas onto dry tracks.
With my dry coal, Thomas, your boiler will soon be bubbling.
Thank you, Rosie. Now I can't go to collect the Fat Controller and Alicia Botty. Would you take my special for me?
Of course course I will. I'll go right away.
Later, Thomas was once more steaming happily. He pulled up at a junction. There was a very big puddle on the right track.
Look at that big puddle. It's perfect for splish, splash, sploshing. No, I'm not going to splish, splash, splosh anymore. I must make sure that Alicia Bottie's grand tea is on time.
And Thomas puffed along the left track to the bakery and away from the big puddle. Thomas arrived just as James and Emily had delivered fresh strawberries and flour to the bakery.
Your silly game means we'll be late for the concert.
No, you won't. I'll wait here for the cakes, then I'll deliver them. You can go to the washdown, then you'll both be clean for the concert.
Thank you, Thomas.
Now I'll be shiny and best, and gleam more than the rest.
Thomas puffed in with the fresh strawberry cakes for the grand tea.
You're just in time, Thomas.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry I caused confusion and delay.
Rosie puffed up to Thomas.
I found another puddle. It's perfect for our game. We can play again.
No, thank you, Rosie. I think I've done enough splish, splash, sploshing for one day.